Publishers are starting to realize the concept of Google Zero is real. What they call Google Zero is a future where they're getting zero traffic from search engines like Google. Hey everyone, how's it going? Woo! I love the energy here. My name is Edward Hu. For those of you who haven't met me, which I think is most of you, I'm an AI researcher. And I started research about 7, 8 years ago when I was an undergrad, and started in natural language processing, went to Microsoft Research, didn't know what I was doing, but I came across this thing called transformers, and I started spending more time looking into it, and all the way until later into my AI residency, I started to work with OpenAI as part of the OpenAI Microsoft collaboration. And then I encountered this problem of customizing large models, and I led a team and created what's called low-rank adaptation, or LoRA. And now a lot of people are using it. And after that, I decided I want to study more deep learning, so I went to Montreal to do a PhD with Yashua Bengio. And my thesis, which I'll be defending in a few weeks, is called Building a Reasoning Machine. In the middle of working on that thesis, I realized actually, you know what, OpenAI and a bunch of other people are already building that reasoning machine, so might as well see what they're up to. So I ended up going to OpenAI at the close to the end of my second year during my PhD, and I joined the reasoning team there, worked on the work that later became GPT-01, 03, and 04. And about a year ago, I encountered this opportunity with my 2 business partners today. With their family offices, we realized with their connection and connectivity, we can actually spot big industry trends and create ventures that change industries. So that is what I'm doing now. One of my business partners is Don Wilson. He is the founder and CEO of DRW, one of the biggest trading firms, and some of you guys might know that. So today I want to share from a research perspective, what are some trends that I'm seeing in the industry, and in particular, what is happening with data and content. So as a researcher, having been early in the field, I was able to observe a trend that's very exciting in the beginning. When I first started doing research, it was all about creating a bespoke solution for a particular application. I remember working with DARPA and creating pipelines for their intelligence project. It was fun, but it was very laborious and not really generalizable. And quickly into my career, I see with transformers and these other large-scale machine learning methods, you're able to just give it more compute, unlock this new dimension. So not only talent is the bottleneck anymore, compute becomes the bottleneck again. A trend that I'm seeing in the last few years, actually last year, I'd say last year is the year of reasoning. That's when O1 came out, and OpenAI had a huge lead for a while, but quickly people caught on. Just actually a quick question. Does anybody know who has the smartest model today? In terms of raw intelligence, just like shout it out. Gemini? Anybody else? Quinn? Who else think has the smartest model? Anthropic? Agency? Yeah, they have more agency. I was looking up some reports before I came here today, and I saw 3 different reports with 3 different answers. But I think the real answer is, you know what, who cares? Who cares who has the smartest model? Even the open source DeepSeek is smart enough. So I think starting this year and for the next few years, the frontier is not going to be who has the smartest model. It's going to be who has the best product. Because today, when I choose to use an AI, I don't care as much about is this AI has the highest IQ, but rather is it integrated with my life? Is it trustworthy? Is it relevant to my life? And to build a trustworthy and relevant AI product, you better have trustworthy and relevant data sources. And here, data means many things, and in particular, here I'm talking about content, what I define as the high-quality, curated data. Maybe we're thinking about books, we're thinking about news articles, reports, papers, all the stuff today that takes a lot of effort to curate and a lot of money potentially to access. What is the status quo when it comes to data accessing? Let's first talk about the money. We know people are spending a lot of money on AI talent, people are spending a lot of money on compute. In the last 5 years, the top 10 AI companies are spending in total more than $300 billion on compute. During the same period for data, in terms of content licensing, we're talking about less than $1 billion. I think that's going to change very quickly as more focus is being shifted to building a more relevant AI product in the competition. But what is it like today? Today, I had to say, it's kind of a mess. There's a lot of suffering across the board. I talked to a lot of content publishers in the last few weeks, and they are all very scared because, well, first of all, their content got stolen a few years ago when people were training these models without their consent. And now the product is competing with their business. But today, even today, when you're using ChatGPT to get content from the internet, the publishers are really getting paid. Unless you are one of the few that sign deals with OpenAI, that opened the other side of the equation, that is for the AI developers. Unless you're on an OpenAI, you have a team of lawyers who's going to go to these publishers and ink bespoke deals, you're not getting access to the best content, and you're stuck with whatever is on the free internet. Even that is questionable legally. And of course, we're not the only ones who are seeing a problem there. There's a lot of startups that are trying to fill the void, and a lot of them very well funded. But I think fundamentally, their approaches are flawed in many ways. I'm going to mention 2 examples. Both of them have received fundings in the tens of millions. I believe more than 20 millions. One of them is Tollbit. Their pitch is they are a toll booth in front of crawlers. Every time somebody accesses a piece of content on the internet, they need to go through this toll booth and pay a fee. But the problem with that is AI companies are simply not going to crawl every time they use it. They'll just cache that content. And it's also now solving an incentive problem that I'll highlight later. Another approach is taken by a company called Prorata. They're building an attribution engine telling you how much a piece of content is contributing to an AI response. But they're building a ChatGPT competitor with that feature built in, and they want to do a revenue share with publishers. The problem with that is you are now competing ChatGPT with all the inference costs and the moderation challenges, and it's just a much harder go-to-market problem. What is the solution here? The solution, in my opinion, is to make high-quality content access a democratized commodity. And to do that, we need to think about fundamentally what is happening here. Behind the scene, I believe what is happening is today, the open web built for a human is here to stay. But in parallel, there's going to be a open agentic web that's going to exist built for AI agents. And today, people are using the tools, systems, and cultures from the old internet to apply to the agentic web, which is why publishers are freaking out because they're not getting the advertising dollars. What we needed is a new infrastructure for that open agentic web. So it's like Stripe or Plaid, where if I'm a developer and I have an idea for an AI product that's going to serve my user by having integrated the latest and the most relevant content, maybe from the Wall Street Journals, maybe from Axel Springer with all the papers, or somebody who has written a travel blog. I can just go to that API, access that content, and just produce that directly to my user. And all done with micropayment with zero lawyer involved. That is what we're building. But the promise is actually beyond that. The open web today is based on what's called the attention economy. Because on the open web, when information is freely available, the most scarce resource becomes human attention. And that's what gets monetized, which is great. Who doesn't love free stuff? But the problem is, when everything is free, the way we're measuring whether something is valuable is by views and clicks. The incentive structure is twisted. That's why we get clickbaity titles, people are not watching news anymore, and it's just not good for the whole internet and for humanity when journalism is not what it used to be. And you might say, well, maybe these old publishers are just not meant to be here for the new age that is coming. But at the end of the day, some things are not going to change. The need for content is not going to change. The need for trusted content is not going to change. And the need for diverse voices is not going to change. As long as we have diverse sources with trustworthiness and a track record producing content for the world, we need an infrastructure for that agentic web that is going to happen nonetheless. With AI, actually the opportunity is instead of AI coming in, taking away the job of the publishers, decimating journalism, we have an opportunity to use AI to actually understand the the content that is being produced. So the economic model is not purely based on clicks and views, but instead actually based on whether the content is producing value. And that is the silver lining. And with that, we can create a new incentive structure where whenever a piece of content is used, it's rewarded not just for the usage, but for the value that is adding to the end user. And to me, that is extremely exciting because that is setting the foundation for an industry that is vital to our society for the decades to come. So how do we actually get there? There are myriads of challenges, and I'm sure I won't have time to get into all of them. But on the high level, there is, of course, a coordination problem. How do we get the publishers, the content producers, the bloggers, the book writers to come to the table to realize, hey, this is happening, this is inevitable, we've got to do something about it. Luckily, having had a lot of conversations with these folks, they are well aware this is happening and this is the time to do it. Two things are happening. One is publishers are starting to realize the concept of Google Zero is real. What they call Google Zero is a future where they're getting zero traffic from search engines like Google. And very healthily, in my opinion, they realize that might happen as early as later this year. The second thing is, just last week at Cannes, one of the biggest advertiser conferences in the world, Cloudflare announced, not officially, but their CEO mentioned that they're putting together an effort to group publishers and cut off access to AI bots. And their pitch is, we're fighting Iranian bots and North Korean bots all day long. We're not going to be afraid of some startups in Silicon Valley crawling content. If we say we're going to cut off access, we're going to cut off access. And they're doing that for all publishers across the board as default. And that's going to create tremendous friction to accessing content. And there will be a tremendous need for a solution to exist. So here's the coordination problem. But to me, as a researcher, there's also exciting technical problems on the other side. How do we actually evaluate the value of a piece of content? If you're following academic conferences in iClear, happened earlier this year, one of the outstanding papers is titled Data Shapley in One Training Run. And the idea is during the course of a training run, it's able to use the Shapley value framework to evaluate the relative value of training data. And Shapley value is a concept in game theory used to evaluate the contribution of individual players in a coalition game. And the intuition is very simple. You have a team, you get a performance. Now you kick off one player and evaluate it again, and the delta will tell you roughly how much the player contributed. And it's a lot more involved than that, but that's the intuition. I think in academia, data quality, how do we evaluate data, is already a frontier issue. And I'm excited to see what new approaches and perspectives that's going to come out this year and beyond. And beyond that, here's the question of how do we actually measure value being added to the user in the context of a content marketplace? And how do we define good journalism? If we can encourage that, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't we want to have an incentive structure that doesn't just reward clickbaity titles, but actually what is good journalism that contributes to society? It's going to be a tough challenge, and we're talking to a lot of smart people about it. So today, if what we're talking about sounds interesting to you, if you see a future to be built with democratized access to high quality, relevant content, especially from trustworthy names, come and talk to me. I love to jam. I love to think about what that future will look like, and I love to maybe with some of you build it together. Thank you.